Diana Wynne Jones is my favorite author from childhood. I think I can safely say that. If you ask me to pick any author that defines an era in my childhood reading that influenced the types of books and the fantasy that I like to read, I would pick Diana Wynne Jones as that one person. It is astonishing that I've been doing this for over a year now, and I have never talked about Jones in any depth on my channel before, and today I'm going to talk about Deep Secret. This is also the first time in quite a while, probably since before I went to university, that I have read a really great, true Diana Wynne Jones book. In 2013, I read Islands of Chaldea, which was her very last book. I was incomplete at the time of her death, and it was finished by her sister. And it was a good book. It was handled very well, and the transition between Diana Wynne Jones and her sister was seamless. But it wasn't an amazing book. It was not Jones at the height of her as I remembered her. And that year I also read A Sudden Wild Magic, which is one of her adult novels, and I was really disappointed in it. And it kind of left this bad taste in my mouth about, well, I thought when I got to the end of that book that it had some internalized misogyny about how women and women's relationships and sexuality and stuff were expressed in the book. It just didn't work for me, and I didn't like it. So when I sat down to reread Deep Secret last weekend, all in one rush, all in one afternoon, I was faced with some trepidation. I'll be honest. I remembered loving the book as a kid, and I have heard great things about this book from other fans in the past couple of years as I've discovered other adult fans of her work who bring this book up. And I was like, oh, I'm just waiting. Every page that I turn, every chapter, am I going to be faced with that same problem with whatever I had with the characters in A Sudden Wild Magic? And I wasn't. There was none of that in this book, and I loved it. And it's like my expectations went way down, and now they're way up again. Jones was primarily an author of middle grade and young adult fiction, fantasy for kids, basically. She only ever published 3 adult novels. The first one, which I don't remember the title of and I've never read, was, I think, published in the 60s, very early on in her career, and I think it's probably been out of print for years. It rarely comes up. Then she published A Sudden Wild Magic in '92, and like I said, I didn't enjoy that one very much and I wouldn't recommend it. And then in '96 or '97, Deep Secret was published. Deep Secret is one of at least 2 books in the Magids universe. The other one that I know is supposed to be set in the same universe is The Merlin Conspiracy, and that is a YA novel. In the Magids universe, Magids are magicians who maintain the balance of positive and negative magic in the multiverse. There's an infinite number of worlds. They are arranged, I think, kind of in a figure-8 infinity pattern, and you have universes that are I words and universes that are nay words. Earth is a nay words world, as you might expect, because it is a skeptical planet. People try to rationalize everything and they don't believe in magic. The goal is to get planets I words, as far as I can tell, where magic is more prevalent, magical beings can exist, and where people, everyday people, accept that out of the ordinary things happen. The main character of Deep Secret, or the first character you're introduced to, is Rupert Venables. He is a junior Magid who is assigned to Earth, as well as the Coryphonic Empire, which is made up of 11 worlds. And the book is about kind of his no good, very bad day. First, the Coryphonic Emperor is assassinated, and Rupert is called in to find the Emperor's lost children, his heirs. The Emperor was just not a great guy, and he had multiple wives, multiple children, but he sent all of his children off to live in anonymity. They are not allowed to find out who they are. Nobody knows who they are. So the empire is starting to crumble very quickly because it has issues, while they're trying to find the new emperor, and Rupert just doesn't want to be involved in this. In fact, it's kind of insinuated that the powers that be, the upper room, wants the Chorephonic Empire to fall. Like, they might not really want Rupert to work that hard to find the new emperor and stabilize the situation, but he's gonna do it anyway. The second thing is that when Rupert comes home one day, he discovers that the senior Magid of Earth, a man named Stan, who is his mentor, is going to die. Stan does die, but this means that Rupert has to go out and find a replacement Magid. The number of Magids at any one time has to be consistent. There's an upper limit, and he is given a list of 5 potential candidates on Earth who could become the next Magid. He has to find them and interview them. Rupert decides to tweak the fate lines of these candidates to bring them together in one place, to bring them to him so that he can finally pin them down. And to do this, he needs a place situated on a ley line or a node, a magical node, and he needs to have a situation where reasonably these 5 people could all converge, like they would have a reason to come there. And he chooses a science fiction convention in England. One of the things that I have always loved so much about Diana Wynne Jones is her plots. She has these slippery, weird, odd plots with more slippery characters, and it seems like one person mentioned on the first page who should be a throwaway character actually becomes, I don't know, the Lost King on the very last page. It's all over the place. Like, she just throws these things up in the air and sees them fall down and you're like, okay, there's my pattern right there. It seems like it should never work. And then it does. It's like the veil is lifted from your eyes and the dust settles, and it's just, oh yeah, that's how it all works. This works so well in children's literature where children are more forgiving, or where they're not picking apart plots so much. You just go with it and you enjoy the ride. And I think it's admirable that she takes that feel and style of her children's books and makes it work in an adult fantasy novel aimed at adults who are going to think differently about these characters and these plots and going to be more analytical than children perhaps are. On the other hand, children can be a very unforgiving audience. One of the highlights of this book, reading it now, is something that I didn't catch the first time, and that's the science fiction convention and the eccentric people at the convention and the things they're talking about doing, like setting up filking events and stuff. Like, I didn't even know what filking was until a couple of years ago when I heard it was a Hugo category, or used to be a Hugo category, and I had to go look it up to see what that was. So all this stuff went over my head as a kid when I was like 12 or 13 and reading it for the first time. And then I read it now and I know so much more about fandom. I know so much more about how conventions are put together and programming and what people do when they get together with a bunch of other people who are exactly like them and are fans of the same things. So it would please me greatly, it does please me greatly, to just think that some of the odd stuff she describes in this book at the convention are things that she actually observed at real conventions in the 80s and 90s. I hope it's not an exaggeration, because honestly, if Worldcon in August isn't a little bit like this Phantasmacon or whatever, I might be a little bit disappointed. This book has a lot of humor. I don't think of Jones being laugh out loud funny because of dialogue or because of jokes. It's the situations themselves that become bizarre and outlandish and highly humorous. One of the things that when I got to the end of this book and I was looking back at the experience and I thought, what about this actually surprised me pleasantly? And that would be the character of Marie. She's one of the candidates that Rupert is trying to find, and they do not get along. She's initially presented as this frumpy, dumpy, odd 20-something girl who's just bouncing around between relatives' houses. She wants to be a vet, but she's not really attending classes. She doesn't have any money. She doesn't have a job. And she's got this personality that just grates on Rupert. She's weird. She's just witchy weird. And it's very unflattering at first. And so that was, at the beginning of the book, I was like, oh, please don't do something bad with this female character, Jones, because that would just not be cool. And then by the end of the book, there is this reversal with how she and Rupert view each other, and it felt so natural because all this stuff happens with Marie, and you get to see things from her point of view as well, and you realize she's not an unpleasant person. She's a very strong person dealing with an even bigger problem than some of the other characters without even knowing she's doing it. Like, she doesn't really know that magic exists, but she's struggling through this magical situation her entire life. By the end of this book, I thought completely differently about her, and I think there is so much character development and growth in this slow reveal of what's going on with her. It was just really pleasantly surprising to read, and I feel bad saying that it surprised me because I had such low expectations for her as a female character, but it was just a really good thing. Reading this book was a little bit like coming home, and I really hope that when I reread Chrestomanci and Dale Mark Quartet and everything that I will feel the same way, but I'm just so happy that this was a 5-star book when I reread it, because you never know if that's going to happen. Every time you pick up a book that you loved as a kid and you don't remember it very well, you have no idea if it's going to be good again as an adult, and it makes these things even more special when they happen. That's everything that I have to say about Deep Secret and Diana Wynne Jones right now. If you have read this book and you want to talk about it, please comment down below. I can't be the only person around here who has read Jones's work and loves it, so somebody talk to me, please. And I will be back again to talk to you in my next video, and until then, bye.